I wanted to tell my own story of both depression and suicide. And she's in a transverse position, which means that basically she's laying like from Hi everyone, welcome back to Mommy Mondays. I'm sorry I missed last week, and we were doing the final walkthrough for our house, so that was crazy, and I may miss next week because we are moving. Great news. I'm here at Lifetime Fitness, our gym, and today we got to take the girls to tennis lessons, their first tennis lessons. This has been a really big week for the girls and for us because their progressive classes that they take here ended, so they had their hip hop recital, and I'm gonna put all this at the end, so if you want to watch that, like, I'm gonna put hip hop recital and tennis and their gymnastics review all at the end. So that's been our week in a nutshell, and I had an ultrasound with little woman here. I'm here in the tennis lounge, so if you hear stuff in the background, I'm just here while the kids are at they do, you know, their kids academy, so they're doing that. And I'll give you a quick update about both the baby and the house, but I kind of wanted to talk about something a little more like serious that's been on my brain, and kind of like a story from my past related to mental health and things like that. So anyways, so I'll get to that in a second, but the house is going through. We signed paperwork yesterday. Very, very exciting. And our house also went through, and so final stretch. I mean, yeah, we still have to move, but compared to all this stuff, I'm like, who cares? Moving's action. Moving's like putting one foot in front of the other. Like this other stuff, the paperwork and the calls and the da-da-da-da-da. Anyways, so yay! Next vlog will either be next week or the week after, and it will be in the new house, so I'll give you a tour, so stay tuned for that. Like I said, I had an ultrasound for a little woman. She's really, I've only gained 15 pounds, so I don't even remember if that's a lot or a little. I need to look at my, like, you know, I keep track, but I'm really just super relaxed this pregnancy. And she's in a transverse position, which means that basically she's laying like from here to here. Her face is heading up, or she's like facing us. Hi, Cece. And her little legs are like over her face. And she's not that big. She's like 2 pounds. So it was fun to see her in the ultrasound, and they got the pictures. You know how I was worried last time, or a couple times ago, that there was an issue with her spine. They couldn't get 1 or 2 pictures. Kind of gave me a little bit of anxiety, but they got the pictures and all is good. As many of you know, if you watch the news, or even just like, I don't watch a lot, but I hear through the grapevine of like, so this week both Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain took their lives, from what we know. And I know someone could say like, well, that doesn't really affect you, it's not part of your life or whatever, but I think it does affect all of us. You know, when somebody like Robin Williams, or there was a famous DJ, like people who have it all, you know, and then they decide to take their own lives, it's very confusing for, I think, the general population at large, because we've admired these people, especially Anthony Bourdain. So while we don't know everything, of course, I wanted to tell my own story of both depression and suicide. And this may come as a shock, because you all see me as who I am today, and that's why we should never judge a book by its cover, because we don't know like what it took to get to that point. I struggled for years with medications and depression and life crisis, and I tried to take my own life. And so that's something I wanted to talk about just quickly today, and in the hopes that, like, I don't know if anybody's struggling, like, please reach out. Like, I would love to talk to you about it. Like, it's such an interesting thing, this, okay, so my story, that's all I can really share. I can't speak to other people's experience, so I'll only tell my own experience. How about that? So I really, really struggled in college with I wouldn't even call it, for me the depression was like what I think my personality type just skews to, of more of an existential angst of what am I going to do with my life? What is life all about? I didn't have direction. I think a lot of people go through this, and it's getting a little more attention now, but it's kind of like the quarter life crisis, or the crisis after you're graduating from high school, and you're like, what am I going to do with my life? And there's so much riding on it, and there's so much pressure. So I was going through like a bit of a depression, and a bit of like, I was sleeping all the time, and I couldn't get to class. I flunked out of my first semester of college, straight up, and I didn't even drop out. That's the worst part about it, is that I didn't even like drop out. I found out later that I could have just made some calls and dropped out, and like it wouldn't have affected me. I let it go to straight F's. So that happened, and then I was like just almost comatose, just like on my mom's couch. I didn't have anything going on. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. And then I was getting a lot of shame from like my family members, and like people of like, well, get it together. What are you gonna do? Like, pick yourself up. Like, I didn't feel like I had anywhere to turn, I guess. And so one day at a routine doctor visit, and I complained that I'm sleeping a lot, that I'm having a lot of trouble like getting to my classes and things like that. So she proposes this like, well, that sounds like classic depression. I want to put you on a medication that should help with all that. My experiences with this medication stuff was just a mess. So this is not a pro-medication story. This is an anti-medication story, but it's only my story. I would never judge anybody for anything. So then time after time I kept going back to the doctor and telling them my side effects of like, no, I'm actually feeling worse. Like, not only now am I just sleeping, which big deal, now I'm gaining weight, or I'm having racing thoughts, or I'm having this. Oh yeah, okay, that's a side effect of that one. Let's try something else. Okay, and don't go off it if you can't go off it all the way. So long story short, over the course of like 2 years, I cycled through all these different antidepressive medications, and then because of the weight gain, I was experimenting with like different diets and diet pills, and basically just made myself into a crazy person. And to the point of then my boyfriend at the time cheated on me really bad over the course of like a year. And so like all the lying and back and forth of things like that, of like figuring that out, and that just threw me into a spiral. And I can't like go into the whole story. It's a real story, of like many years. But it found me one night feeling completely betrayed because my brother and I got in a big fight, who's my best friend, and just everything felt totally thrown out of perspective. And we were living up in a river rafting town that like every summer I would go and waitress there, and that's, yeah, Stanley, Idaho, and Redfish Lake, and otherwise great experiences. But so I go up there and I get in a big fight with my brother, and he had Vicodin in the house that I knew about. I grabbed the bottle, I went to the store, and I bought 2 huge bottles of alcohol, 100 proof, and drove myself into the woods. And you have to remember, we're in the middle of backwoods Idaho. There's like nothing. There's just like nothing. But there was this one spot that I used to go whenever I had a day off, and I would lay by the lake and listen to music and read. I decided to go there. But on my way out of town, I stopped at a gas station and I made a call, like a sobbing freak out call to my mom. And then, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm going in the woods, like basically to die. And It's such a crazy story that I even like survived, like, because I was just out of my mind. I was literally out of my mind. My emotions were so raging that I couldn't take back. I couldn't, like, it was like watching something happen, you know? So more and more pills, more and more alcohol, and I'm writing, pass out next to the fire, and I kept the pants too because I could have gotten burned by the fire. I had all these holes in my pants where the embers were burning through my clothes. And a miracle happened. My mom found me at this lake. I woke up to her, like, next to me saying, "Emily, I'm here." Gotten her friend and driven 3 hours on a hunch, a mother's hunch. This is all true story. Even as I tell it, sometimes I'm like, and I don't tell it often. Like, even Alex didn't know this story I just don't ever think about it because it's like, it's not part of my story now. It's not somebody like where I'm like, oh, well, I tried to kill myself, or I was a depressed person, or I used to take those are just not part of my story. The things that like happened to me, but they're not part of my story anymore. They are and they aren't, you know what I mean? After that, I started going off of medications. I still struggled for another 6 months to a year with like getting off these medications because it kind of becomes like it becomes, here's what I don't like about medication is because I feel like it becomes like a hope basket where like you put your hopes that this is the answer into this pill bottle or this basket, right?